Chapter 1. One Lawyer's Beginnings. Nathan Bader was born in 1896 in a shtetl near Odessa in the Russian Empire, the kind of village immortalized in the work of Yiddish writer Sholem Aleichem and the musical Fiddler on the Roof. It was a place where life had continued unchanged for generations, where Jews, while sharing a village with Gentiles, largely governed themselves and lived separate lives. Nathan was 9 years old when a violent series of pogroms broke out in the region, leaving thousands of Jews dead and many more homeless. That same year, the Baders decided there was no future for them in Imperial Russia. Nathan's father left first, journeying to the United States to earn passage for the rest of the family. 4 years later, the rest of the family joined him, becoming part of the Great Migration that brought 1.5 million Jews from Eastern Europe to America. They settled in New York's Lower East Side, a crowded and gritty district, packed with tenement buildings, synagogues, libraries, shops, department stores, and grocery stores. Known as a notorious slum, the capital of Jewish America, almost everything was Jewish-owned and Jewish-run. Banks, shops, grocery stores, even the garment factories and department stores. By the time the Baders arrived, the district was packed with more than 700 people per acre, making it one of the most crowded neighborhoods in the world. The young man, who would become father to one of the country's most brilliant legal minds, had no formal education other than night school where he learned English. Nathan, described as warm and likable, followed the time-honored path of Jewish immigrants and went into the garment business. He specialized as a furrier. Unfortunately, Nathan didn't have a good head for business. Fortunately, he married Celia Amster, who did. Celia's roots were also Eastern European. Her parents immigrated to the United States from somewhere in the Russian Empire, arriving in New York just 4 months before her birth in 1902, making her the first member of her family to be born in the United States. The fourth of 7 children, she was smart, driven, and a voracious reader, graduating at the age of 15 with top grades from the Washington Irving High School in Manhattan's Gramercy Park neighborhood. Because she was a girl, her grades meant little to her family, who pinned their hopes of higher education and social advancement on her older brother. All family members were expected to work to send the oldest boy to college. So when Celia went to work as a bookkeeper in the garment industry, part of her salary went toward her brother's college expenses. Celia quit her job once she and Nathan were married. Nathan held the view, common at the time, that a working wife meant a man was unable to support his family. From inside the home, Celia was able to give Nathan the help he needed to keep his business profitable. She performed clerical and bookkeeping duties, helping to keep the business afloat even during the Great Depression, when very few people were buying furs. Nathan and Celia Bader lived in a small, well-kept house on East 9th in the Flatbush district of Brooklyn. Their first child, Marilyn, was born in 1927. Next, in 1933, when Marilyn was 6, came Joan Ruth, nicknamed Kiki by her sister. Kiki was a year old when Marilyn died of meningitis. Although Kiki was too young to remember Marilyn, her sister's death lent an ever-present air of sadness to their home. Marilyn's death left Kiki an only child, but her childhood was anything but lonely, surrounded as she was by a large, closely knit extended family. Lots of aunts, uncles, and cousins. Kiki particularly enjoyed the Passover Seder when she was still the youngest at the table, and was thus the child who asked the traditional 4 questions. Each summer, she attended the Jewish camp Chinawa in the Adirondacks, a camp founded by her Uncle Solomon, Celia's oldest brother, who Celia had helped send to college. Among Kiki's early memories were weekly trips with her mother to the local library, which was housed over a Chinese restaurant. Kiki selected her books for the week. She enjoyed reading mysteries and Greek mythology. While at the time Kiki didn't question the prescribed order for girls and boys, she later credited the Nancy Drew series with planting the idea that a girl could be an adventurer who thought for herself, a doer who didn't fit the usual stereotypes of the 1930s and 1940s. She wanted to be either Nancy Drew or Amelia Earhart when she grew up. Celia changed the order of her daughters' names from Joan Ruth to Ruth Joan when enrolling her in school. Celia saw several other Joans already signed up, so she enrolled Kiki as Ruth Joan Bader. Kiki attended public school, 238, grades K through 8, a tall brick building with hardwood parquet floors and high windows, located a mere block and a half from the Baders' home. The school was crowded with more than 1,000 students, and often as many as 30 per class. Kiki wrote an editorial for the school newspaper entitled Landmarks of Constitutional Freedom, tracing the foundations of American law from the Magna Carta to the present day. Easygoing Nathan was the soft touch, the parent who would have spoiled Kiki had Celia allowed it. Celia was the parent with demanding standards, who went over Kiki's homework and made sure she practiced piano. Once, when Kiki brought home a less-than-perfect report card, Celia made clear her displeasure. That was the end of less-than-perfect report cards from Kiki. The Jews in the Baders' neighborhood mixed freely with immigrants from Ireland and Italy. Kiki's best friend, Marilyn DeLucio, was the daughter of Sicilian immigrants. Beyond the safe confines of the Baders' circle of family and friends, however, lurked the specter of anti-Semitism. Brooklyn during Kiki's childhood was a place where boys in the streets had fistfights over whether the Jews had killed Jesus, and where many still believed that Jews needed the blood of Christian boys to make their matzahs. Once, in the 1930s, Kiki was driving with her parents through Pennsylvania when she saw a sign in front of a hotel that said, "No dogs or Jews allowed." The same sort of sign that appeared in Germany, instilling in American Jews the fear that the violent wave of anti-Semitism taking hold in Germany might find a footing in America as well. Much later, during the hearings in which Kiki, then, of course, Judge Ginsburg, was confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court, Senator Kennedy asked her about her sensitivity to racial issues. She explained that growing up Jewish during World War II sensitized her to the marginalization of groups. Celia introduced both Kiki and her cousin Richard to art at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, buying subscriptions to the Sunday children's performances. When Kiki was 11, one of her aunts took her to a condensed version of La Gioconda, a production designed to stimulate a child's appreciation of opera. The settings were bare and the sections were narrated, so the entire opera could be performed in an hour, but the vocals were glorious, and Kiki fell in love with opera. Now she had a new fantasy, to be a great diva. She learned early, though, that she had no talent for singing. A grade school teacher told her she was a sparrow and not a robin, so when the others sang, she was simply to mouth the words. Later, she said she sang in 2 places, her dreams and the shower. Celia also brought Kiki to the Lower East Side to remind her of her roots, the neighborhood that remained a step in time from the shtetls of Eastern Europe. By the time Kiki visited the Lower East Side as a child, the New York City Housing Authority had replaced the worst of the structures to relieve the slum conditions, but the district was noisy, crowded, and boisterous, and Kiki did not love it. Many years later, though, she teared up with nostalgia, remembering the food she ate at those delicatessens and shops, which she called the best in the Jewish tradition. At the age of 13, Kiki graduated first in her class from Public School 238. She attended high school at James Madison High School, founded in 1925, a school with top academic standards, reflecting the ambitions of the community. The school was housed in an imposing red brick building on Bedford Avenue in the Madison section of Brooklyn. Most of Kiki's classmates, girls as well as boys, were college-bound. Today, James Madison High boasts a large roster of distinguished graduates, including 4 Nobel Prize winners and 3 senators, one of whom was 2016 presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. Representative Charles E. Schumer, a James Madison alumnus, said the school did more for his education than college at Harvard. During Kiki's first year of high school, just before her 14th birthday, tragedy struck. Celia was diagnosed with cervical cancer. Celia underwent her first surgery during Kiki's first year of high school and was in and out of the hospital for the next 4 years. Kiki understood that not much could be done to save Celia's life. Despite the daily pain of living with the smell of death, Kiki never let on to her classmates that her mother was dying. Kiki was a baton twirler, a member of the Go-Getters Pep Club, and a cello player in the school orchestra. She ran for student government but was beaten by one of her best friends. She was confirmed with honors from the East Midwood Jewish Center. At home, she often did her homework at Celia's bedside because it pleased Celia to see her studying. Kiki was petite, just over 5 feet tall, and very slender, with bobbed hair and blue eyes. Classmates described her as pretty and popular. Reserved, she didn't speak unless she had something of substance to say. She had a slow, deliberate way of talking, liberally sprinkling pauses into her conversation. Self-controlled by nature, she took Celia's advice that she should always be a lady, by which Celia meant rising above destructive and petty emotions. A lady, according to Celia, remained calm and was always modest. Kiki's tranquil exterior masked the inner strength and determination that allowed her to flit through high school in her pep club jacket, hiding the secret that her mother was dying. Celia's illness was not the only thing Kiki hid from her classmates. Behind a pretty face and shy smile, she hid a sharp intelligence. To the outward eye, there wasn't much to give her away as a future law professor and Supreme Court justice, as she was more likely to be found wearing the Go-Getter's black satin jacket and selling tickets to games than holed up in the library. Girls in the 1940s were supposed to be fun and popular, party girls, not bookish and smart. Kiki, always the perfectionist, was for all the world to see the perfect high school girl. For those looking closely, though, there were hints of a lawyer in the making. Her grades were almost perfect. She was editor of the school newspaper. She was admitted into Arista, the elite honor society. Outwardly fun, inwardly serious, she was a girl who smiled often but rarely laughed. She was very modest, a classmate said later, and didn't appear to be super self-confident. She never thought she did well on tests, but of course she always aced them. Celia expected Kiki to go to college. In particular, Celia set her sights on Cornell, the school her older brother had attended. Cornell, located on the southern shore of Cuyahoga Lake in central New York, was considered one of the best schools for girls, not only because Cornell accepted a fair number of girls, but also because it was thought to be a good place to find a man. The ratio was 4 men for each woman admitted. With its high academic standards, Cornell was not the place to find just any man, but one who was smart and capable, with a good career ahead of him. Celia didn't just want Kiki to find a man. She also wanted Kiki to have a career and be independent. Of the jobs generally open to women, nursing, teaching, and secretarial work, it was evident to Celia that Kiki, with her love of history and civics, was best suited to being a high school history teacher. Kiki was admitted to Cornell and awarded several scholarships, including Madison High's English Scholarship and a New York State Scholarship. She graduated from high school ranked 6th in her class and was scheduled to speak at the graduation ceremony as part of the Round Table Forum of Honor. The day before Kiki's graduation ceremony, Celia died of cancer at the age of 47, almost as if she'd held on until she knew her daughter was ready to venture forth into the world as an adult. Kiki, in mourning, did not attend her high school graduation ceremony. Teachers brought her medals and awards to her home. Upon Celia's death, her family discovered that she had been secretly saving money to pay for Kiki's college education. She had saved $8,000, a fantastic sum, in 1950. Ever prudent, Celia never bought anything on credit. She had 5 separate bank accounts, with no single account having more than $2,000. Because of her scholarships, Kiki was able to return the money to her father, which he soon needed. Not long after Celia's death, Nathan's business went quickly downhill, a testament to the help Celia had been able to give him. Kiki insisted that growing up, she never had any sense of herself as what we might today call a feminist. However, when asked about certain topics, like her attitudes toward Judaism, her answers indicated a heightened awareness of the limitations placed on girls. For example, she talked about how only men could participate in the minyan, the quorum required for public prayers of mourning. One of the mornings the family was sitting Shiva for Celia, there were not enough men present to make up the minyan. So someone had to go searching for a man, despite the abundance of women in the house. Kiki felt particularly stung. She had not only worked hard at her confirmation, but was also one of the few to take it seriously. Yet her Jewish education meant nothing during one of the most important moments of her life, because she was a girl.